Well, good morning for science for Friday. We are looking at a new section here on our solar system, and in this section, starting on page number 259, if you want to go ahead and turn there really quickly, I'll do a little bit of reading with you in this introductory part here. But our solar system, which contains eight, used to be nine when I was a kid, but eight planets because Pluto is no longer considered an actual planet as part of the system, but more of a I don't know if they call it a dwarf planet or something. And then there are some who want to make Pluto a planet again, but that's a different story. So the solar system here on page number 259, it says, in the 1500s, Polish astronomer Copernicus published his theory about the order of the universe. He believed that the sun was the center of the universe and that the planets revolved around the sun. Most people believe that the planets, stars, and even the sun revolved around the earth. Copernicus's idea was not new, but he was the first in about 2,000 years to use mathematics to prove his idea. Copernicus's theory was debated by other scientists and leaders of the time. Only after many years did scientists such as Sir Isaac Newton and Johannes Kepler prove that although the sun is not the center of the universe, it is indeed the center of our solar system. Today, research into our solar system continues to shed light on how the whole universe functions. The heavens really do shout the glory of God. And so we get into then space exploration and rockets and the space shuttle, which was our most recent rocket that was used. They would take people to, we do a lot of experiments in space about satellites, about probes, about the International Space Station, which is still in use today. And go back to page 261, and where it says science and history. Now, this history was actually a part of my life. And for those of you that are, all of you in here, except maybe parents who may be watching this, all of you are basically not aware of these things. You might be aware of them, but you did not live them. And so it says here, though at times space travel seems commonplace and ordinary, it is never without risks. During a training mission in 1967, an Apollo spacecraft on the ground caught fire and killed 3 astronauts. You can go back and YouTube that, and you'll find that. Apollo 13 was almost lost to drift in space because of an explosion on the way to the moon. And that is also a well-known story. It was a story that had a movie made about it, not necessarily pushing the movie, but it was a pretty interesting event. If you go and look that up as far as the historical events of that, you will find some good video of that as well on YouTube. Then in 1986, the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded soon after liftoff. 7 crew members were killed. The entire shuttle fleet was grounded while changes were made to a thin rubber ring that had failed to work properly and had caused the explosion. After a few years, the shuttle fleet again began making frequent trips into space. In 2003, the Space Shuttle Columbia broke apart while re-entering Earth's atmosphere. Another 7 crew members were lost. Again, the shuttle fleet was grounded while scientists tried to determine the cause of the accident and to take appropriate action to avoid its reoccurrence. Despite the tremendous list of things that could go wrong, the space program has had remarkably few accidents. But every time a life is lost, we're reminded that reaching for new frontiers is always dangerous and that life is brief. Now, you've probably heard of people doing things where they're rock climbing, or they go to try to climb the tallest mountain in the world, which is Mount Everest, and they die doing it. There are people that die going to Mount St. Helens trying to climb that. And I remember several years ago, an older man, I don't know if he was in his 50s or 60s, but he got to the top, and he was on the top because it was still snow up there. He was laying down on the snow, but then the snow broke away. It was actually over top of the peak of the volcano, of the crater of the volcano, and so he fell in. And so anything that we're doing that has danger to it has danger to it. There's a reason they call it dangerous. There's a reason your parents get upset or scared if you're doing things that they think are dangerous. You think, oh, they're just being dumb. They don't realize they can't. No, you don't know, because there are so many times accidents happen. You never hear about people who are hurt or killed, permanently injured, anything like that, when they have done something like that. You may know some people, maybe in your family, that have done things like that, or cousins or distant relations, that is the case. You think about. I've always emphasized seatbelts, and many times I see parents that don't make their kids ride with seatbelts in their car, and I see kids jumping around the car as they're driving out of the parking lot. Very dangerous thing. Yes, probably 99% of the time nothing's going to happen, but that 1%, when it does happen, there's always going to be a situation where brakes are going to have to be applied, or somebody runs into you, or somebody pulls out right in front of you, or you get distracted, or your parents, at least when they're driving, get distracted, and they end up hitting something. And it can happen, and it does. And so seatbelts need to be worn because they are a safety device to help you. And most of the time, people will survive an accident, especially a minor one like that, without too much damage to their body. It doesn't take much to cause damage and cause a person to die. Do you remember what I had told you about what caused the Columbia to break apart? I'll wait for a minute while you think about it. I said it not too long ago, but in one of these videos, and what it caused it was the tiles on the Challenger, when it had taken off, had broken off because some ice that was on the tip of the space shuttle. Space shuttle sits up pretty high, but the rocket fuel that's in there causes it to have a very cold response on the outside of the rocket, and that causes ice to build up from the water molecules that are in the air and freeze onto the rocket. And so when the rocket takes off, the ice, when it starts to rumble and then it starts to take off, the ice on it, on the tip of that, falls off. And what happened was some of it hit some of the tiles that are supposed to protect the space shuttle from breaking apart. And so that broke off some of the tiles, and those tiles were missing. And then the tiles were, the areas where the tiles were, the heat got through the vehicle because the tiles were missing, and it caused it to break apart in midair. Well, that's it for today for science, so make sure you do that. You have work text pages 171, 172. 171, again, is a what do you know section. Just answer the best you can. You don't need to look up the answers, but these are things you're going to find out. I'm just trying to see how much you already know about our solar system. And so that's it for today. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.